And a very good afternoon. Welcome back, going into this evening now. And the weather outside has definitely picked up. We can see much more sun shining through our windows here in the studio. And I hope you're all in the best of spirit. You're listening to Nasar, Raoof and the Drive Time Show on Iman FM. 103.1 FM, your voice, your choice. And our segments have started with paper review with Matloob Hussain Ali Khan, who's our freelance journalist. And inshallah, for those of you guys that are joining us on Facebook Live as well, a very warm welcome and assalamu alaikum to you guys as well. And do stay tuned. Inshallah, coming up on the show at about 5:30, just after 5:30, we will be joined by Raza Nadeem from London. He's a famous blogger on Facebook and also shares a lot of podcasts and Facebook Live videos. Got quite a bit of following in London and around the world. And he says you shouldn't condemn these attacks, these atrocities, in the sense that this is just a game. This is just a political game. There's certain aspects of it which are wrong. The far-right press is various organisations and blame that he spreads across people, and how people have been played or mocked in certain aspects. So your views and your thoughts on that as well on 0142425 and also our text number, which is 0788 5599 Without any further delay, let's go to our freelance journalist who's joined us in the studio, and that's Matloob Hussain Ali Khan. Matloob Saab, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Alhamdulillah, really good. It's good to have you back. No trouble getting in traffic. We're all right.
Yeah, traffic's fine. It's I might have to. I've got to talk to Shabir Balade after the show about some timing of this review. But anyway, it's not. I'm still going to do it, but it's just a little slight timing adjustments.
Acha, chalo, theek hai, inshallah, we will accommodate where we can. New concept, Matloob, from next week as well, inshallah. Picking up, do you know, people are saying that the newspaper stories, for some reason, nobody picks up newspapers anymore. What they see is what's trending on Facebook and what's happening on Twitter. And then whatever's got the most tweets, the most Facebook stories, inevitably suggestion came in the other day. I think it was from Ibra that gave the suggestion to myself and yourself, and he said to share with it on the show with you that sometimes you should pick up all the stories that are running in the trends. Do you know, like we picked up that the shooting that happened in Huddersfield. Alhamdulillah, we got a lot of press.
Yeah, I mean, I personally do that anyway. I always follow the trends sometimes, but
I think it inevitably, if you
can apply it from the news, but sometimes it's good to pick one or two stories.
One or two stories from the press. The ones that are going,
because the newspapers still have got a value.
Absolutely has. Yeah, definitely.
Very important.
But Lusa, what have you got for us today then to start us off?
It's Brexit. It's happened. And the European Union's headline in The Guardian is the EU don't blackmail us. The Independent article runs no turning back. Picture of Theresa May and also Nicola Sturgeon looking very, very sad. And also Telegraph, a magnificent moment. That's obviously they're celebrating. Mirror's got farewell George story and Brexit battle begins, trading blows, and picture of Theresa May, George Michael, his funeral. And so we'll start with The Guardian. Just give you a clip of some of the headlines. And Theresa May has warned European leaders that a failure to reach an agreement, comprehensive agreement, will result to weakening in the cooperation between, in terms of security, especially triggering the Article 50. So so they don't want to be blackmailed. So that's the one story. The other one is, because Angela Merkel has rejected one of Theresa May's thing. It's like you can't have it always. You can't have the overlapping. Merkel saying that no parallel talks, no new European Union relationship. On those terms of withdrawal. So that's two women leaders really gonna
have head to head.
I agree with Angela Merkel, to be honest. If Britain's gonna leave the European Union, so they have to pay it's like a divorce, isn't it?
Well, this is it. It's
divorce
not cheap.
Settlement. Anyway, so that's the Guardian. Going on to the Independent. This is the one where what I said, the picture of this really somber looking Nicola Sturgeon and no turning back. Theresa May really cock a hoop, but it just runs. It says I'll pick up the story. What Donald Tusk is the as you know, he's the European Union president apparently, and he's speaking yesterday after start of formal talks. So people saying that they will miss the UK already. So they're already going to miss the UK. So it's interesting. The other one is. The European Union's bluff could have disastrous consequences. For those who feared the very worst, the Prime Minister offered some scant ground for Brexit optimism. Her tone, compared with that of the speech he gave Chatham House in January, mostly conciliatory, the warmth, etc. So those are the sort of words in the broadsheets. We're going straight to the Telegraph. Once again, it's all the headlines of Brexit, to be honest. A magnificent moment. No surprises why the Telegraph is saying that, but got a picture of Mr. Boris Johnson in there. I think he's writing an article about something anyway, so I'm not really interested, to be honest. There's not much notice taken of him or what he says, but sometimes you could take him with the tongue in the cheek sometimes, you know. So, but I think one person is very, very... His pictures on all of the thing is Nigel Farage. Now, this is an interesting one. Daily, going on straight to the Daily Mirror, although it's a picture of Theresa May and George Michael. Farewell, George. Sort of sad story, innit? George Michael's death, and, you know, people say farewell. Apparently, the trading blows, as I mentioned, Angela Merkel, no parallel talks, no new European Union relationship. That's the big story in the Mirror, in the tabloid, but... the one headline in the Daily Mail, which has got a picture of Nigel Farage, cheers to a great British future, and he's stood there drinking his pint. Nigel Farage is really happy, and him and Donald Trump, two big best mates, one on the side of the sort of Atlantic. So it's going to be interesting what is. I think, did you hear his program? I think he was on the LBC.
Radio.
Yeah. So.
It's got very interesting comments, doesn't he? Or constantly comes out with. He wants to leaves Britain. He says he wants to leave Britain if Britain doesn't get a deal. So inevitably, it's giving some sort of incentive to Theresa May not to do a deal the way it's going. But it's quite a complex one, because it's inevitably not many parliamentarians know what they're doing. Not many. I don't think even David Davis, the person responsible, one of the cabinet members responsible for taking us out of the EU, does actually have any idea as to some of the consequences that are going to happen. I think we're all kind of in lost. What's going to happen about the education facilities, free movement, everything, is access to the single market, whether these things are going to be remain on the table, what's going to be the topic for negotiation. So I think it's going to be interesting.
And I think another loss, according to the Daily Mail, is Britain's withdrawal from the European Union is big expertise, according to the Daily Mail, expertise in terror, expertise in terms of intelligence, and, you know, in terms of that. So this is the article running that's because of vulnerable to terrorism and organised crime in Britain. If Britain is refused a significant trade deal, it was claimed last night that Europol, European Union policing agency, will lose access to Europe's world-class intelligence and policing capabilities through UK.
Yeah.
So that's some loss, but, well, we'll see what happens. But obviously, when you leave something, there's certain things you can't take with you because of the trade agreement, and I think the 56 billion is it 60 billion they have to pay?
They have to pay for the go elsewhere.
That's it. And also the Europol, apparently this is assist member states in the fight against serious international crime, terrorism, cybercrime, people smuggling and drug trafficking. European arrest warrants, speeds up extradition of suspects or convicts between European nations. So this is a very, very, very important,
interesting one,
very important area. So yeah, we're going on to the Daily Express.
Yep.
Again, a picture of Nigel Farage, very, very happy with his pint and talking about how happy he is because he's got what he wanted. The Brexit, he's going to claim credit for it because of him. But no turning back. Theresa May held a great turning point in our history yesterday as Brexit was formally set in motion. And Nigel Farage celebrated the start of the European Union exit in typical style yesterday, downing pints of bitter. This is what the Express says in a Westminster pub wearing Union Jack socks and clutching a copy of the Daily Express.
Sure. It's an interesting one there, isn't
It's
it?
interesting. And it's a turning point. Yeah, well, I have to agree that this is a turning point. We'll see.
But when he's celebrating there, Nigel Farage, I think it's important to notice that he was one of these people that was always very much against EU from day one. Although he had a job as a member of European Parliament, which I thought was, well, if you're strongly against the process, why you're part of it? It's like all those people that say, well, there shouldn't be a House of Lords, but then when they get offered the position of becoming a Lord, they take it with both hands. You know, people like John Prescott come to mind straight away. So inevitably, it's one of those things, isn't it? Power, I think, does that to people.
Power, as they say, corrupts. I can say that. Anyway, just a bit of news on Kashmir. I'm jumping ahead. This is things close to my heart. It's just a story I saw, and I think I'd like to share with the readers. It's something just come up. Apparently, India using Kashmir as an excuse to oppose Silk Road project, Chinese media, which is true.
Yeah.
I agree, not because I do like travel between Pakistan and China. I think it should be linked up because all those states have links historically because people migrated from different generations, years gone by.
Right.
So, and I think India's just doing a political movement because of whatever reason. So this is the Chinese media article says Donald Trump said, I don't want China dictating to me. So Donald Trump's going towards India. He's supporting India, and China's returns underwater drone to US after spat with Donald Trump. Interesting. That's a story in this same paper. So that's a different bit of news. But India's sees Silk Road initiative as a geopolitical competition, which I just said is a political game to oppose the ambitious project. Chinese state media today alleged that the New Delhi to abandon the cliche mentality. So the official Indian government rejected offers to join the initiative. Silk Road is designed to pass through Kashmir. However, it's just an unfounded excuse, as Beijing has been maintaining a consistent position on Kashmir. So we'll wait and see. That's going to be something really interesting. And other stories in the Kashmir news, just to bring to you.
Yeah, okay.
There's a story here. Young men coming to Kashmir encounter encounter sites is suicides at top cops. This is an interesting article. It's young men who go into encounter sites, and the Jammu Kashmir police chief said, referring to stone throwing at security forces by local anti-terror operation and the recent deaths of civilians. So what it is, I think the Indian army and the security force been using live ammunition. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, they were using the rubber guns, but they were taking rubber pellets, but they were taking shots at heads rather than.
And these are the encounters they're trying to. And this is really sad because, although it's quite provocative, the stone pelters, etc., this is serious stuff, which the Indian, so the Mehbooba Mufti had told them that parents should not let their children create obstacles to. So she's obviously back in the security force, but it's interesting that they're making these encounter sites. It's like setting them up. Obviously, they say, oh, well, we've got nothing to lose. We may as well not bother about our lives, but it's like a bit martyr. But at the same time, I think you look at it from the side of the people who are demonstrating like they do. Stone pelting shouldn't be dealt with a response of fighting. If they were armed with the guns, etc., then I can understand the security forces fighting back with that. But when they're not, that's.
I think it's a powerful picture when I think it was one of the pictures that was coming from Palestine and Israel. If you remember, one with an automatic machine gun in his hand, and the other young child on the other side, which had a stone in his hand, and that was a very powerful picture. I was shared over social media and news channels more than about, I think it was about, when I was quite young, about 10, 11 years ago now, when that situation was, and it's just a powerful picture, isn't it? It's just really highlights the kind of two injustices, one with a machine gun, one a grown man, and then a young child on the hand with a stone in his hand, and somehow they are the violent type. The kid with the stone is so violent compared to the one that's dressed up in a military uniform with an automatic submachine gun. So it's it's a real cruel world that we live in, isn't it? It's especially with the media, the way the role plays. If you had to look at Matloob, I'm not sure whether you saw it. Do you see that woman that was on the bridges in when the Westminster attack took place? And she's got a hand to her face.
Yeah, that's
and do you
right,
see it? That picture that was being circulated, just like people judge that picture straight away and say, oh, she's on a mobile phone. She doesn't care about that person that's just dying on the pavement next to her. But people like in the Daily Mail and a few newspapers had a field day with that picture running. They got quite a few comments from various
But the
people.
real story was she was it a nurse who ringing up the hospital, what's going on, trying to help?
Yeah, basically, yeah. There was lots of the stories behind it. But inevitably, people just judge that picture and they think that's gospel.
Also, sometimes a picture does not tell, although it tells 1,000 stories, but not the ones what you think.
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
People take too much guesses at it. But look, thank you very much for coming in as always.
Just to find, have I got a bit of time? 1 second.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Just a bit of news. One of the local news. I just want to bring this in. I don't know if you've talked about this in Sheffield Star.
Yeah.
Parsons Cross has been shamed as one of the most antisocial estates in the country, but residents who live there are having none of it. New research revealed that the area is one of the most notorious crime hotspots across England and Wales. 143 incidents in a 6-month period. So that's something. I've driven past. I'm sure you've driven in
loads of times. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, the area is not as bad as when you drive through it.
It's took a hammering though, doesn't it?
But it's took it because of it's a council estate, years and years and historic, and it's not bad as I would say all the people from the manor. It's not as bad as that area because that's got history and they're living up to their reputation. I mean, there's been a few things, but I somewhere along the line I do agree, but then again,
it's not before long. Page all areas are like that as well. Have you seen some of the pictures that are flying about on social media, having to go at certain councillors and individuals saying that they've not done nothing, these politicians are corrupt, and so on and so forth. Various people are making accusations, but all the rubbish and the litter fronts and stuff in Page Hall on Main Road as you're coming into Page Hall, and inevitably then problems still exist, you know, and this is what the thing is inevitably all these areas going to now be run down.
To be honest, the road system around in Deals Avenue is terrible. I don't know if they need to do that up. It's damaged your car. You end up buying sort of springs for your car. That's what I found. Have you noticed? They're still not doing them roads, so that's another reason.
That's another one that they're going to pick up, inshallah. Time for the outbreaks here at Iman FM, and inshallah when we come back we will be joined by Razan Nadeem, then one of the bloggers on Facebook. He's made many podcasts as well, and inevitably he's got a story to tell about the Westminster attack as well, and what the response of the Muslim community should be. Should it be one of condemnation? Should it be one of feeling guilty or apologetic? Or should it be more than that? What's his version of events? Stay tuned then to your local community radio station, Iman FM 103.1. Time for the ad breaks.
Online at www.imanfm.com and on our app, you're listening to Iman FM.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम तारक हुसैन तुसां वास्ते प्रोग्राम की नी काई रिया वे पठवार ने रंग ईमान एफएम पर जेड़ा तुसां दे प्रोग्राम पेश करया करसा शामी 8 तो किनी के 10 बजे तक आर बदारे ए सुनना ना भूले सिर्फ ईमान एफएम पर पठवार ने रंग तारक हुसैन ने संग
In a world where accident claims are poorly managed and the referral fees paid are so low, and just when all hope is lost in the city of Sheffield, a hero emerges. A hero so powerful, one phone number is all you need. A hero named Mr. Compensator. For your referral fee of £2,000, call Mr. Compensator now on 0114 3863 386. Terms and conditions apply.
ओ दोस्ता बनी ठणी तक कित्थे तैयारियां नी
मैं जुलियन जुमेरा
दुबई जा रहे
नहीं जुमेरा स्पाइस रेस्टोरेंट
उत्थे क्या खास है
1976 दी देसी रवायती खाने जेड़े पाकिस्तान ने जाने माने शेफ बनाने ने खाई दा वतन नी याद अच्छा है लैम चाप्स चिकन बोटी लीवर टिक्का चिकन काबरी मैन हाउस स्पेशल कढ़ाइयां ते पार्टी डिशां अच्छी तरह डिलीवरी करो
जुमेरा रेस्टोरेंट 1 the common actors S59WJ 0142467
मैं जा रही हूँ 10 बाजार में great happy visit the new bazaar जहाँ पर हर तरह के नए फैशन अच्छी कीमतों के साथ खुले हैं
Visit the bazaar at Sime Street, BD1 3RB, former Rawson Market.
Open every Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Also every Wednesday at Leeds Kirkgate Market.
The Bazaar, जहां आपको हर किस्म की चीज मिल सकती है.
The Bazaar, ooh yeah.
Kashmir Orphans Relief Trust in conjunction with Iman FM presents an evening with UK's renowned Nasar on Sunday 2nd of April 2017, 5:30 p.m. at Aruj Wedding Hall, Sheffield. A fundraising dinner not to be missed. For more info, please contact Haji Shabir Mughal on 07976 287730 or Haji Akhtar on 07866715483. Hope to see you all there to help court provide hope for orphans.
Your voice matters for your community. Here at Iman FM, we're looking for presenters. Would you like to step into the media industry? Are you interested in being a radio presenter? Can you talk about local issues? Do you want to serve your community? If the answer is yes, contact Iman Media now on 0114 242 0551 or email info@imanfm.com.
स्पीडिंग टिकट है मैं क्या करा तू खान सोलिसिटर्स की कॉल कर उना कोल स्पेशल टीम ही जेडी रोड ट्रैफिक केसेस रेड लाइटां नो इंश्योरेंस तो किनी के इमिग्रेशन फ्रॉड मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग पर्सनल इंजरी क्लेम्स सिविल लिटिगेशन तक कत्ल दे केस भी हल करने ने ते जे तुसा समझो कि पुलिस तुसे नाल कोई ज्यादती कीती है ते ओ कंपनसेशन भी दुआने ने ओ खान चढ़ा माड़ी जान
Khan Solicitors, 351 Abbey
Community Station, Iman FM on 103.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum then, and welcome back. You're listening to the Drive Time Show on Iman FM 103.1 FM, your voice, your choice, and I'm your presenter Nasar Raoof. Inshallah, I'll be with you through to 6 o'clock now, and lots to come on the show then, inshallah. Inshallah, we're talking about the issue of the Westminster attack 7 or 8 days ago now. We yesterday were in Sheffield. Many events were held. 2 events were held in Sheffield as a vigil, as a remembrance for those people that passed away. They sadly lost their life. One of the police officers and members of the public that were affected in this. Many people were also injured as well from students that had come over from France. A lot of community, the world stood together in condemnation against these people that committed these atrocities, and a lot have been trending on social media since that, and some of the comments have been very fascinating indeed, and we want to look at some of them comments. To discuss some of them comments then, and to get some sort of analysis on it, we've had all this week and all last week as well since the attack, various people from communities. We've had Raoof from Tell Mama, And we've had other individuals as well, activists, local community activists here that have led from an Islamic from an Islamic perspective, various campaigns. And to continue some of that discussion then, I've also got a really fascinating individual that's going to join us. He's the campaign coordinator for MPAC UK, and it gives me glad tidings to be able to announce to our listeners that Raza Nadeem is joining us then from London. Let's go to our phone line here and first of all greet him on to Drive Time for the very first time. Assalamu alaikum to you, Raza.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much for coming on at such short notice as well and making yourself available. So I much appreciate that. Just to start things off, where do you fit in and where is MPAC for those people that may not be aware of it?
Sure thing. We're a Muslim organisation based in the UK, been around for about 10 to 15 years now, and our primary goal really is to empower Muslims to take intelligent political action to deal with the circumstances we find ourselves in. So be able to deal with anti-Muslim media stories, anti-Muslim or Islamophobic politicians or their comments, and to make sure that our interests locally, nationally and internationally are reflected in government policy. And a big part of our work also is trying to get mosques to get their acts together and actually be representative of our communities and actually do their job of being proper community centres rather than just prayer halls.
Acha, so interesting so far, some of the comments you made. We'll be coming back to some of the descriptions you've given there. Just in regards to the Westminster attacks, which is one of the main purpose, I've witnessed many of your comments and your podcasts that you've had on your Facebook page, some of the live videos that you've put up there, and inevitably I'm somewhat confused, as many of the public is, as to where you stand on this issue, because inevitably as a Muslim and as a campaign coordinator for a Muslim organisation, the job of empowering, where do you stand? Do you stand with those people that are at this moment in time that are condemning these atrocities, organising events left, right and centre, up and down the country to condemn these acts in the name of Islam, or do you have another agenda or another perspective?
I have a completely different perspective on this. Actually, I think most Muslim organisations have spectacularly failed in providing any leadership after this Westminster incident, that criminal incident that took place last week. That rather than providing real analysis and kind of giving leadership, all they did was they fell in line and started apologising and condemning, when really there's nothing to apologise or condemn as Muslims. Now, they may want to condemn as human beings, and I completely appreciate that, and actually that's something I would welcome. But if you look at most of the activities that most Muslim groups have taken, it's not been from a position or from a place that come from a good place. It's actually come from a fearful place. They're afraid of Muslims being demonized. They're afraid of being attacked as terrorists or Islamists or extremists. And that's why they've done these tasks. Because the reality is, if you look at the facts of what took place last week, there is no indication, the police have said themselves, that we do not know the motive of this incident. So we cannot call it a terrorist attack. If we can't call it a terrorist attack, why are Muslim organizations a week later still acting as if this guy in the name of Islam has killed everyone? There's no proof of that whatsoever. And even if he did do something stupid as a Muslim and had some stupid interpretation of his religion, again, that's not something we all need to condemn, because guess what? Everyone knows that 3 million Muslims in this country clearly don't agree in going around chopping people's heads off or running them over or stabbing policemen randomly. So, it goes without saying. So rather than providing any real critical analysis or leadership, all they did was to say Islam means peace. That's no real analysis whatsoever, and it's done nothing at all to stem the hatred that comes towards Muslims. They think it might help, but it's actually not helped at all.
So some would say that this is in fact empowered, because talking about empowerment here, it has empowered the other communities to also stand united and cut out the far right extremist comments that we've seen on social media, and also bring about integration and help unity. If we're condemning, if members of the community decide to bring together and hold a vigil, then they're very much celebrating the fact that these people that have passed away or have lost their lives in these atrocities. One question before we come to that point is the one that's really standing out to me is if you say not condemn, those Muslims that have chosen at this moment in time to condemn as human beings, are they doing the right thing then? Or inevitably, yes. Where do they stand? As human beings, why can they not do it from an Islamic perspective?
Because the thing is that's like, imagine you heard that someone has been going around stabbing people in Sheffield, and you said, as a Muslim, I completely abhor this. The first question is, why have you as a Muslim, why as a Muslim have you got to prove it? Did you know the guy? Are you related to him? Why are you trying to make a point of your religion on this? And the reason why Muslims, or some Muslim organizations did the whole, as a Muslim I condemn, is only for one purpose, because they were afraid that Muslims are going to be called terrorists and extremists off the back of it. But even that, we'll come on to that later in this interview, you'll understand why even then their understanding is so flawed and incompetent. Because the reality is, right, I agree that condemning should take place generally because it provides a good positive image of Islam, allows for people to kind of see who we are. But the reality is most of these Muslim groups don't actually take any real proactive action to better the image of Islam in Britain. Most of the groups that did these actions from last week, they appear out of nowhere from doing nothing, doing these big vigils and demonstrations and not in my name sit-ins, and then they go back to doing absolutely nothing to tackle the tide of Islamophobia. Remember, they tell us that one of the reasons why they do this is because they are afraid of far-right extremists attacking Muslims and more divisions in society. Well, if they care about that, why don't they do anything about the bad mainstream media coverage that Muslims have? Why don't they engage with politicians to deal with anti-Muslim comments or to deal with prevent legislation or any other legislation that affects Muslims the most? If they care so much, where is their care for the rest of the year? Why does it only appear at these atrocities? And that leads someone to believe that after having watched a decade of this, that clearly they're either really incompetent and don't know what they're doing, or don't know what they're doing, or it's both.
Some would say, though, distancing yourself from these attacks, because inevitably you can't take away from the matter of fact, which this individual last week claimed to be a Muslim. He had a Muslim name, perceived in the media and by the many of the public that were affected on that day, and the wider public out looking across the world to be a Muslim, if perceived to be a Muslim. Whether his actions are or not is another question, but inevitably the world perceived him as a Muslim. Why is it not from within Islam for people for Muslims to come out and disassociate themselves, remove any association away from Islam? Isn't that inevitably what Muslims should be doing?
If it was part of a wider strategy in trying to change the image and condition of Muslims in the UK, then I would agree. But most Muslim organizations in this country don't do anything, and most mosques don't do anything every other day of the year to deal with this issue of Islam being smeared or attacked. So the thing is, I don't believe them for a second when they say it's because I'm really concerned that Islam will be smeared. Because guess what? This is happening right now. You open the Daily Mail, you'll see attacks on Muslims. You open the Sun, you'll see attacks. You look at UKIP, half their manifesto, they'll be damning Muslims or attacking them. So if that's the case, why don't you do something then? Now here's the other thing, right? Yes, I get the guy had a Muslim name, but when a crisis takes place, when there's an atrocity, people try to understand why this atrocity took place. They want to make sense of it. And that's where it's critical that Muslim groups and individuals and mosques provide analysis, because if you don't provide the analysis, the other side do. And the other side don't always have your interests at heart. So if you look at people like Nigel Farage, Katie Hopkins, and even our Home Secretary, Amber Rudd, what were they saying? They were saying immigration is to blame, Islam is incompatible, and Amber Rudd, she was saying that we need to stop the encryption and security of texting services like WhatsApp so we can read your messages. So she was pushing for more surveillance. Now, Muslim groups should have been at the forefront of saying, hang on, it's nothing to do with immigration. How dare you blame the Muslim community? How dare you say that we should lose more of our liberties? And actually, we need to analyze what happened. They should have been questioning about the role of racism, because this man came from a fairly middle-class background, right? The Adrian Elms or Khalid Massoud. But they didn't ask those questions. They didn't ask, why is it still being called a terror attack, when actually the police have said, we don't know the motive. They offered no analysis, and because they offered no analysis, that's why they're still calling it a terror attack, even though the police said on the weekend that they're still calling it that, because they don't actually have an action plan in dealing with these problems. They're just reactive. And you know what? Next year, here's the sad thing, right? We're going to sadly have another incident because of this country's foreign policy. Sadly, there'll be another nutter who will take innocent lives. And again, these Muslim organizations who've been silent for the rest of the year will suddenly reappear with their Not In My Name placards and then go back to doing nothing again. And things will just keep getting worse.
If not in my name and various other campaigns, then what inevitably can Muslims do to improve the situation? Because inevitably, you've said quite a bit in your introduction, which I want to pick up on as well, because you've said pretty much the mosques are not doing their fair share, and you're also a part of your campaign coordinating work with MPAC UK. You're trying to solve, or you're trying to resolve that issue as well. What do you think that our mosques? How are our mosques failing us Muslims as well?
Oh God, how long have you got there, my brother? Because the reality is our mosques are failing us in spectacular ways. The lack of access for women, the racism in our community, the fact that young people can't really get a foot in unless you're related to someone on the committee, the fact that they have no real action plan in dealing with Islamophobia, the fact that they don't train up young Muslims or any Muslims in the community to deal with anti-Muslim attacks on our streets, or what to do if they read an anti-Muslim story, or if a politician treats you like rubbish and still takes your vote. They offer nothing. There's no proactive plan to empower the Muslim community to be actually just treated equally. They don't offer any of that. So if a mosque, right, here's what I want from my mosque. I want my mosque to be doing what organizations like MPAC are doing. I actually don't want organizations like mine to exist. I actually think the fact that my organization exists is a failure, because the reality is the mosque, which should be a hub for the community, Muslims and non-Muslims, should be the place where Muslims sit down, discuss the issues of the day, spiritual, political, whatever they may be, and then try to find solutions to those problems. And Easter holidays, you see all these young people who will come to pray Jummah, and they literally leg it as soon as they pray their two fards or their sunnahs afterwards. Because the mosque is not a place where anyone wants to gather. It's seen as nothing but a prayer room. And that means that when it comes to times of crises and atrocities like we've just been through this week, when we should be sitting down as a community and trying to have an organized action plan to deal with these problems of poverty, homelessness, terrorism, extremism, crime, education, aspiration, you name it. We should be dealing with these problems. Instead, Muslims are busy just arguing or debating or discussing on Facebook or social media, or just complaining to one another on their armchairs, when really we should be sitting in the mosque and solving these problems in an organized, intelligent way.
So you've talked about some of the things that people can actively do. Talk about some of these organizations that had held various placards. I'm not going to start going into individual organizations, because inevitably our listeners have heard it, and our viewers on Facebook have seen it over the past week. But inevitably, if not in our name, what's actively you've said what the mosques can do, and what some of the huge followership. Lots of people are sharing some of the work they're doing. They've got lots of comments. They've got lots of words of support and wisdom. And some of these people that are actually taking part in these visuals and events are senior community leaders from across Sheffield and Rotherham, which I'll give you an example of. These are some of our chairmen of our Muslim centres. These are the chaplains from the University of Sheffield, and these are the very significant figures within a political front and the Islamic front as well. So inevitably, are they all wrong in their approach?
Yes, they are all wrong in their approach. And here's the thing, right? There's two bits to the solution. One is what they can do, and secondly, what can we do as just members of the community, of the public. There's two things, right? First of all, these organizations, the first thing they can do is grow a backbone and actually stop being so afraid of the Charity Commission and be just a little bit more fearful of God. Because the reality is they self-moderate and self-censor to the point that they just make generic comments about how killing is bad. I mean, look, every single time there's an atrocity, all you hear from these Muslim organizations is that one verse from the Quran, that if you take one life, it's as if you've taken the whole of mankind. And guess what? This is where the whole thing is so silly, right? If you've got a reasonable non-Muslim who doesn't blame all Muslims for the actions of one lunatic, then guess what? That person was always reasonable and will stay reasonable. The unreasonable guy who hates your religion, that wants to throw bacon at mosques and attack Muslim women, guess what? He doesn't like your religion anyway. So your statement of condemnation does nothing to change his mind. Now, the people in the middle that might be swayed, they need to be, that needs to be addressed in a long-term way, and that is what these groups need. They need actual professional plans to say, how do we raise the conditions of our communities? And that, because that question is not even on their lips, that's where they fall down. Now, here's the other bit, right? What can we, as members of the community, do? And the biggest thing we can do is hold them to account. If they are supposedly representing us, now you and I might feel that sometimes these organizations don't represent us. But here's the thing, right? When you're living in a country which is white majority, They don't understand how our communities work. They think our mosque leaders are actually our leaders. And in most cases, you talk to most young people, I bet they don't even know who the Maulana is in their local mosque because they have no connection to it. But here's the thing, if they're seen as our leaders, then we have to make sure that they are treated like leaders. And that means when they do something good, congratulate them. But when they do not do their job and they're not up to the mark, that you hold them to account. Because unless we are holding them to, it's not right that just because someone is elderly in our community, I understand respect for the elderly, but it doesn't mean you allow them to be elderly and incompetent. Yes, they can be elderly, but it doesn't mean they have to be senile in the process. They have to still make sure they do their job of stopping, of defending the community and representing us and empowering us. And if they're not doing that, they need to hold them to account. And secondly, join these organizations. Speak with your money, speak with your mouth, and make your voice heard, and make sure that if they aren't doing a good job, you either challenge them or you join them and change them.
Raza Nadeem, I'm running very short of time, and I've got loads of questions to ask, but inevitably I'm running out of time. It's only a couple of minutes to the end of our show, and I do want to get into some of our listeners and some of the comments and text messages we've had as well. I do want to share them out. Jazakallah, as always, thank you for joining us, and best of luck in your campaign activity with MPAC.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Jazakallah, walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And that's Raza Nadeem, campaign coordinator for MPAC UK. It's his views, and not necessarily the views of Iman FM. If you agree with his views, fantastic. If you don't agree with his views, let me know. Why do you think he's... Do you think it's about enough condemn or not to condemn? What he's saying is condemn as a human being, fantastic, no issues. When you condemn as a Muslim, you're telling a whole different story, and you shouldn't do that. What's your views? 0142425 and our text message number, which is 0788 5599786. And as always, you can join us on the phone lines and the text numbers. We'll go through some text messages in a short while indeed, but just before we go through some text messages, let's go to our phone line here at Iman FM and listen to some of our callers. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Iman FM.
Walaikum salam, Raoof. Nasar, how are you?
Ji, alhamdulillah. Former leader, deputy leader of Rotherham Council, Jangir Akhtar Saab. Very warm welcome onto Drive Time as always. What do you make to Raza Nadeem?
Well, I could have written that script, but obviously he wrote it a lot better than I could. I do know from my comments on Facebook and also earlier in the week about the radio about these vigils, I completely agree with Raza. If you recall, I said we should condemn as humans, absolutely fine, and there's not a word that he has said that I disagree with. I tell you, I am so proud to when I hear people like Raza who said, listen, some of the profound things he said. Let's reflect on it. He says, don't be afraid of the right-wing press. Don't be afraid of your council. Don't be afraid of the government. Be afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the one that you must be afraid of, and speak from your heart and he's right. He is right, because I'm not going to criticize individuals who feel they have to, because the Muslim community is frightened and they think that if they don't come out, they will be labeled as complicit in these crimes by these individuals. So I completely agree with him, and may Allah Ta'ala give him so much goodwill and give him sawab for the work he does. And let me just tell you, I know a little bit about the organization. They don't get any funding from any government. All they are is self-funded, and most of the work, everything they do it out of their own pockets, and for individuals who actually make donations to their organization.
Just that was one of the questions that we were going to ask him, but we ran out of time, because he talked a lot about the mosques and some of the work and some of the failures that our mosques are doing and our religious leaders are doing, which he had to go at as well, which was interesting, because we hear that repeated by many people, but inevitably it's just repeated and then it gets ignored. But inevitably it's fascinating to see some of the work that he's probably done with MPAC, and inshallah we're going to try and get him on next week sometime to talk about it in a bit of detail with him. But inevitably he's got a lot of points to make, Jingi, I must say.
No, he's absolutely brilliant, and there are many young brilliant Muslims out there. He's not just on his own, but there are so many. But the thing is, he's been invited on TV shows, but the thing is, he won't be invited as much because he does not play the blame card. He's not the token Muslim, Do you remember there was a character in one of the cartoons called the Token Black Man? There are a number of individuals like the Quillen Foundation and a few others that get wheeled out, right, to give that narrative that makes people feel good, and the community thinks, oh, you know, you get a tap on the head, you a good Muslim, you very good Muslim, good boy. And that's a mentality that we need to get rid of. And it's people like Raza who are intelligent and can articulate in a cohesive way that, and there are thousands of youngsters out there, right, who have similar views to him and myself. It's just they don't get an opportunity to express them. And can I thank you and your radio station, and especially Shabir Saab, for bringing these diverse opinions. This is not about criticizing people, because, as Raza said, people are frightened. They think if they don't do anything, that they will be castigated by the wider community. We need to grow out of our shells. And, you know, the colonial code was lifted over 100 years, nearly 100 years ago. You're not oppressed. Do not feel to be oppressed.
So I've got to stop you there. Changiya, thank you very much for joining us, and it's the end of the Drive Time Show. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Okay, it's the end of the Drive Time Show on Iman FM 103.1. Next program is Masla Kya Hai with Raja Hushnud Khan, and he's got Brother Saber in the studio from Rotherham, and he'll be going head to head with him. Let me tell you, there's no such thing as Jeremy Paxman. When Raja Hushnud comes onto the mic, he will leave him for dust. But that's coming up next, so stay tuned to your local community radio station. Keep supporting us, and inshallah, use your own wisdom. And we don't have any views here, but we get as many views across to you as possible. That's this end. We ended this week's Drive Time as well. Inshallah, I'll be back next Monday with more hot topics and more discussions as well, especially taking a look at our mosques, and that is one that's going to be very pivotal next week.
Your voice, your choice. You're listening to Iman FM.
कोई गुजरे हुए कल की बात करता है तो कोई आने वाले कल की बात